There's a couple interesting fights in here. I'm interested that Austin Arnett got another fight with the UFC. He's gone 0-2. He's fighting Humberto Banade, at featherweight. So his job's on the line too. That should be an interesting one. Cynthia Calvillo. Well, actually, no, that's the main card. But yeah, the prelims. Devin Powell's back. He's always an interesting guy. This is just, not much to really write home about. None of these fights are really that intriguing, in my opinion, especially the flyweight one that, we know that there's no future at flyweight for either of them.
The main card, by the way, guys, not sure when or if I'll do a wrap-up that is the same night as NXT TakeOver War Games, so kind of a battle with time there, but if not, then we definitely will cover this next week. Go ahead and hit me with her name, Joe. You're great with pronouncing names like Polyana has, and I'm not going to do it the disservice of saying it before you.
What, Polyana Botelho?
Come on. You know how to say it, Joe.
Poliana Botelho.
Oh, come on. You just suck the fun out of a room. She's fighting Cynthia Calvillo.
I know.
Calvillo, a fighter who was not a professional fighter when Fightful started. And she's taking the biggest layoff of her career because, quite frankly, she didn't have time to take a layoff before then. In a year and a half, she went from not a pro, James, to making it to the UFC, to going on an awesome run and beating Joanne Calderwood, to losing her first fight against a former UFC champion. How do you think she'll bounce back with this time off against Polyana Botelho?
Layoffs affect everyone differently. She could be getting a lot better in the gym. We don't really know. I'm always concerned with layoffs, and you also have to factor in the travel for this fight for her. Is that going to play a role in this as well, although she has fought overseas before? This is a big fight for her. And again, she had so much momentum last year. I rember being in Buffalo when she beat Pearl Gonzalez. She was at the presser. Dana White was referencing her, here and there. She's got to get the momentum back. So this is a huge fight. If she loses here, that's going to kill everything she accomplished in 2017, in my opinion. So she's got to go out there and take care of business, but a very tough opponent, like you said, 7-1 record. She's got her work cut out for her. And the other thing is, with the travel, the weight cut, how's that going to impact that too? We'll see, but she's really got to win this fight.
Joe, as James mentioned, everybody responds to layoffs differently, but we're seeing a couple of women similar in age, similar in experience, except for that Botelho has been around longer. She has the same amount of fights. When you see somebody like Calvillo cram that many fights into such a short amount of time, what does that say to you?
Well, there's a lot of things you could look into that. Personally, I don't recommend it. But then again, it depends if the fighter's young and gung-ho, or they're older and trying to get as much as they can out of their career before they get too old. So it is kind of strange, but you take a look at her record, the way you described it before, it is kind of weird. It is a bit challenging, but yeah, it's a tough call. And of course, with any sort of layoff, nothing good comes from it, in my opinion. But I have seen, guys like Freddie Assunção take on Jay-Z and emerge victorious. And in a post-fight interview, tell me flat to my face in front of everybody and everybody that was tuned in at the time that, ring rust isn't real. It never is real. Well, okay. Maybe not, but
we also used to hear that the guillotine was a myth from certain fighters.
Yeah, right. So the irony is, I just realized this, James. Freddie hasn't fought since winning that title, ever, anywhere.
Yeah, I saw him this summer. He was supposed to be in the PFL tournament, but he suffered another injury. The guy just can't catch a break.
Both brothers go through, or two of the three brothers go through a lot then. But yeah, just back to Cynthia for a second. It's just a strange scenario, but I like the fight. I do like the fight, so we'll see how it all unfolds. But what time does this card actually start?
Normal time.
Normal time? All right.
Yeah.
I'll do my hair. Perfect.
Normal time. Also, Guido Canetti, Marlon Vera on this show at bantamweight. When I see guys like that, and I see Marlon Vera, who's lost 2 of his last 3, and I see Guido Canetti, who is win-loss, and then I see a possibly soon-to-be bloated bantamweight division. That's another one that I look at with Canetti at 38 years old, and I'm like, you should probably win that fight if you want to make sure you hang around, especially since UFC is getting very just wishy-washy about letting people go on wins. You also have Cesar Ferreira against Ian Hinish. Cesar on quite a streak, won 5 of his last 6. Anything in particular you're looking for out of this fight, James?
Well, Heinisch, I should mention, trains at Factory X, and that team has been on a roll right now. And he also won on Contender Series, and he also, he didn't win on Contender Series. He won the LFA title, and so then that sort of prompted him to, get the UFC contract and everything else. But it's a tough task. He's taken this on short notice. Now, what I heard is that he was supposed to be on this Denver card, and they had an issue with his opponent, and so he wasn't able to get on there. So he's fighting the week later and fighting Ferreira, who is a killer in that division. I mean, that's a tough task. And Heinisch, if you look at his only loss, was to Marcus Perez, and that was a first-round submission. And Ferreira, known for that, he did that to Carl Robertson in his last fight. So going to be an interesting fight here. But Heinisch, again, from everyone that I've talked to at Factory X, just really good. And by the way, I got to correct myself. He did win on Contender Series. It's tough to keep track of everyone, but should be a good fight.
It is. I am so ready for Tough to go. I cannot wait to not pay attention to The Ultimate Fighter until the finals. I am so excited for that. We also have Khalil Roundtree against Johnny Walker. What? Johnny Walker doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, and he's fighting a guy that has like 9 fights between UFC and Tough, Joe.
I just want to see Johnny Walker fight Jack Daniels, but
son of a bitch. How dare you?
Yeah. I think he's really going to make a splash in this fight.
Oh, God.
I know we're quick. We got to wrap this up here, but Khalil Roundtree is a favorite at -250. We're not going to put 5 on it, but I think Khalil emerges victorious.
Yeah, he's going to have him on the rocks for sure.
Oh, God damn. Such a weird booking after he beat Gokhan Saki. But whatever, it's a Contender Series guy. I guess they figure, well, the worst that can happen is that he loses to a Contender Series guy. I'm excited to see how they push these fellas. Ricardo Lamas, Darren Elkins. This is an underrated fight. My God. Darren Elkins was close to retirement and just changed his life, changed his career, and went on a 6-fight winning streak. Lost to Volkanovski. Ricardo Lamas, a former title challenger, but has lost 2 in a row. I'm going with Elkins in this one. I think he's going to be able to grind it out, and that Lamas is not an easy guy to grind it out against. But James, your thoughts on this one?
Just a great matchup. Again, I think the winner of Lamas and Elkins should fight Yair Rodriguez next. But both these guys have something to prove. Trying to stay relevant in that division. Lamas is one of those guys, man, where just when you think you want to count him out, he pulls off a big win, and I think he has that opportunity here on Saturday. But Elkins, as we've seen with the Mirsad Bektik fight, never count him out either. So I'm excited for this one. Both guys, lots of experience, going to put it all on the line in the co-main event.
The +200 Elkins is definitely one of my I got 5 on it, as is, I'd probably say Sasaki at +230, because why not? And yeah, that's probably the extent of my I got 5 on it. Well, outside of this main event, Joe, your thoughts on the co-main event, though?
I got 5 on Elkins. Done.
Yeah,
nothing else to talk about.
He seems like a pretty safe I got 5 on it. I mean, the guy, I don't doubt that he can beat anybody below that top 5 at some, like, given the right night for him. You also have Santiago Ponzinibbio, a -330 favorite over Neil Magny +260. I see Neil Magny as one of those guys who on any given night could beat almost anybody with the right wind resistance. He might be able to just beat anybody. He's hung around, man. He transformed his career as well. Joe, Ponzinibbio on a hot streak. Obviously, they want him to win. I'm expecting him to win, but Magny is no easy out.
No, he's not. But the expectation when the original bout of Santiago Ponzinibbio against Kamaru Usman was made, they had high hopes for Santiago. I don't think you should put 5 on this fight at all. I respect Neil Magny, of course. I think he's a fantastic talent. I just think Santiago's got skills, just fantastic. So I'm going to be looking at Santiago to pull this off.
James?
Santiago should win this fight, but if you look at Neil Magny, when he loses his fights, it's usually by submission. And Santiago, you have to go all the way back to 2012 for his last submission win. This is one of those things that, I think Neil could hang in there and could get it done. So I might put 5 on Neil because I think there is some value. Interesting thing about his camp at Elevation. Seems like the guys over at Genesis are kind of cross-training with them. So, guys like Justin Gaethje and some of the other talent out there. So getting some different looks for this camp. We'll see if that pays off in this one. But, Neil Magny, one of those guys, again, where he can always surprise. Just when you want to count him out, he can pull it off. But if I had to make my pick, I'll go Santiago.
Guys, this show brought to you by our new Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. Link is in the description below. Subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and a comment, and you will be instantly registered to win the signed Chuck Liddell Randy Couture photo ahead of Chuck Liddell's MMA Return this month. Cannot believe I'm using that as a plug, but it is a real thing that exists in this world.